Dear brothers and sisters, you always have to read the Bible on two levels, or very often at least, not always maybe, but very often. On the level of what happened and underneath the spiritual meaning. Then we have Peter. Peter was a professional fisherman who knew how to fish. But he had been fishing the whole night through, and together with his companions, and they had caught nothing. And then Jesus says to him, throw out your nets, or bring your boat into deep water and throw out your nets on that particular place. I don't know what the Bible doesn't say anything about it, what Peter really had been thinking, but it is quite likely that he had a moment that he thought for himself, how can this carpenter, who has not a foggiest idea of fishing, give such a stupid advice? Well, stupid, he might have thought it more nicely, but the point is, at daytime, that is what I have told at least, been told, the fish goes down to the bottom of the water, and it is impossible to reach them with the sort of nets the Jews were using. They were meant more for the surface, and that's certainly not so deep as the water of the lake was like. So it was, by all ramifications, normal ramifications, a most foolish advice. But Peter said, on your word, Master, if you say so, I will let down the nets. It was his first act of unconditional faith in Jesus, and a faith that was rewarded with a big catch. Unpredictably big, so that everybody was totally taken aback, actually. Because, as the Gospel tells us, he caught such a colossal amount of fish that his nets began to tear. Dear brothers and sisters, what the Gospel tells us here about St. Peter may well be taken, and here comes the spiritual meaning, if you like, as a general rule for our personal life. And that rule is, if you want to be successful in your life, if you want to make a big catch, let us see ourselves now as fishermen, if you want to have a big catch, then just as much as St. Peter did, you must put your trust in Jesus. Follow the directions, sometimes how unpredictable, actually. I was therefore thinking of the year of the monkey, actually, unpredictable. What's life like? So totally unpredictable. But follow his directions. Throw out your nets in this life, whenever and wherever he tells us to do so. Now, to really trust and follow Jesus in the way he wants, that, of course, is not always so easy. Because in the first place, we very well know that he wants us to be absolutely, unconditionally following his guidance, always. not just only occasionally when we are sitting here in the church for a few hours or for an hour, but also outside the church, in the world of our daily life. As somebody said, our belonging to Christ should become visible in every single activity of our daily life, in the way we order a meal in a restaurant. Should be seen that we are Christians, not, hey, boy. That's not the way a Christian talks to other people. In the way we treat our ama or work for our employer, in the way we play a game, well, a Catholic soccer player should be very honest, fair, or park our car. In the daily language we use, in the daily literature we read, in the factory, in the schoolroom, in the playground, anywhere and always, we should be following Christ by a whole new style of life. Now, that's Christianity. In second place, following Jesus is not always easy, also because very often he may tell us to do what at first, initially, we do not want to do at all. I didn't want to become a priest when I was young. I didn't want to. It was not my ambition, for sure. But Jesus said, come and follow me. You are going to be a fisher of men. I would have said the same as St. Peter. I didn't know the text, but me? St. Paul, he was actually a Pharisee. He was sent out to the Gentiles, a totally unpredictable choice of Christ. And so on and so forth. To all of you, I may say, that job you want, that plan you have for the future, that house, or that vacation that you want to have, or that boy you have fallen in love with, that group of friends you have joined, no good. Change your direction. Put out your nets in another place. Not here, but there. Now, initially, that's maybe not easy, very hard to follow his instructions. And many people don't. They just go off and you say, well, bye-bye. I follow my own insights, which are more to the point and more realistic. But that is what Jesus wants, that we follow his instructions. And then we are promised, if we do so, that we will eventually become successful beyond expectation. I still remember the public testimony which I heard years ago from a Japanese lady. I had never actually heard lay people talk about their faith. It was always priests, nuns, brothers. And here for the first time I heard a lay person talk about what Christ had done to her. And she told me, of us, we were in a group, how at one time she had been on the verge of divorcing her husband. My husband is much older than I, she said, and at first I found him so unbearably dull, such a softy also, so little exciting that I often felt he was driving me crazy. But then one day I allowed Jesus Christ to take over my life, and eventually my whole outlook on my husband began to change. And now I have learned to accept him for what he is. In fact, I have begun to love him very deeply, and I feel very, very happy with him. You see, throw out your nets with that old fellow. Dear friends, tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow actually, we start another new year. I don't know whether the new year will be really so new, but basically that's what we want. We want to divide time in pieces, so that we can have the feeling that we can make a new beginning, can celebrate something, remember something, looking forward to something. So we have a new year of the monkey, and I shall not bother you with more with this sermon about it. Just let us decide to make it a year in which, perhaps more than ever before, we will try to give Jesus the first place and the first seat. Without Jesus, so we are told in the Gospel, we cannot make a thing. But if we follow his guidance, eventually he will bring our life to a successful conclusion. So let me wish you a happy lunar New Year, a happy fishing trip in the year of the monkey with Jesus at your side. Amen.